Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. When I was 10, my family moved into a new neighborhood. The first person we met lived just across the street, Millie, not her real name, obviously. She was a nice elderly lady who was always out on her porch swing with her cats. She told us she was a widow and a grandmother who had lived in that same house for 40 years. She was excited to have kids, my sister and I, out on the block and playing again. She just seemed like a lonely old lady and gave off no red flags, nor did she show any strange behavior. One afternoon, a week or two after we first moved in, my mom and I were unpacking some boxes when we heard terrified screaming from across the street. I ran outside to see what was going on while my mom called the police. I saw two women I'd never seen before running out of Millie's house. One was bleeding from her arm and hand, screaming for help. Millie came out of the door yelling at them to get out of her house over and over, holding a bloody kitchen knife. Terrified, I ran inside crying. The police arrived and took both women away, leaving us to wonder what exactly was going on. A few days later, my mom met the stabbed woman, Holly. She explained what had happened. It turned out Millie had never lived in that house, and the cats she loved so much were really Holly's. Millie had been sitting on Holly's porch during the day while Holly was away at work for several months. At some point, she found a spare key Holly kept hidden in her garden and had been going into the house during the day, leaving before Holly returned. Holly had begun to notice things were off in her home but didn't think much of it at first. On the day of her attack, Holly happened to come home early and found Millie in her kitchen. Millie screamed and went after her with a knife, demanding she get out of her house. Millie was deeply mentally ill and had the delusion that everything in that house was hers. The police told Holly she seemed particularly attached to the cats. Perhaps her connection to them triggered these deep delusions. Remembering this story now, I'd always feel a mix of sadness and being creeped out. Holly moved away a year or two after the incident. It's a mystery what happened to Millie, if she got help, was put in an institution, prison, or taken by her family. I guess we'll never know. I do Uber Eats on the weekends and sometimes on days when school is out. This happened just a couple of weeks before our school's holiday break. It was a Friday night, and I didn't have any plans. I figured, why not make a few extra bucks instead of being bored and lying around the house all day? I started driving and set up the app to start getting orders. It wasn't snowing, but it was really cold and windy. There was still a thin layer of snow on the roads from earlier that day. I think it was around 6 p.m. when I started. I did a few orders before getting one to pick up from a nearby Burger King. Once I got the food, I checked the app to see where I was going. It was clear at first glance that this wasn't a real house address. When I zoomed in a little more, I was confused to see it was at the corner of two streets, looking like maybe a gas station. Although I found it unusual, I clicked begin route and started driving over. I didn't think it was anything bad. I just figured it might be an awkward interaction, since I'd probably have to find the person in the parking lot and give them the food directly. Usually, I never even see the customers, I just do a quick drop-off. As I got closer and drove up to the intersection, I saw that it was indeed a gas station right where the directions were leading me. The gas station itself looked normal, but there were no cars in the parking lot. I pulled in and parked in one of the spots at the back, then stayed in my car. I looked around, expecting someone to be out there waiting for me. The app should have notified them I had arrived. Even after a couple of minutes, I didn't see anybody. I sent a text through the app, letting them know I was in the parking lot waiting. I got out of my car to see if I could get a better look around. The whole intersection was empty. No cars were passing by. All the stores on the street seemed to be closed for the night. The longer I stood out there, the more unsettled I became. I checked my phone, still no response from the customer. I was just about to get back into my car when a truck pulled into the gas station. It passed the pumps and drove right up to me, parking just a couple of spots away. It was an older, dark red pickup with tinted windows. The first thought in my head was, why would someone order delivery if they were going to drive there anyway? I thought maybe it was a worker at the gas station or someone just hanging around, but it was already starting to feel suspicious. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out of the truck. From one look at him, I could see he had a very disheveled appearance, like someone you'd expect to see living out on the road. Even his clothes looked dirty, stained, and torn. As he got out, I held up the bag with a slight smile, but the man didn't even look at it. He kept his eyes locked on me as he walked forward. Something struck me, giving me the feeling that I needed to get out of there immediately. I set the bag on the ground. Almost instantly, the man started sprinting, as if he knew I was getting ready to leave. I got back in my car and started backing out. Just as the man reached my door, he ran back to his truck, leaving the bag of food on the ground. As I left the gas station, I saw him back out quickly and start speeding toward the exit I was using. I floored it, ran a red light, and sped down the road until I got to a busier area with more cars. The truck tried to follow me for a minute or so, but then turned away. Once I felt safe, I called the police, but nothing really came of it. In the heat of the moment, I hadn't even thought to check the man's license plate. Thinking back on it, I'm not even sure if he had one. I don't know what he was doing or what would have happened if I hadn't left when I did, but knowing I was that close to finding out is a horrifying thought. A couple of years ago, I went to the Grand Canyon during the summertime on a road trip with my best friend, Amanda. I had never been before, but she had visited once when she was younger. We drove on a long road that led into the park. Once we entered, we followed another road into one of the main parking lots. I was surprised at how big the park was. There were various campsites and several trails. When we arrived, there were quite a few people. We went down one trail to see the actual canyon. There were several walking trails along it and many different lookout areas as well. We walked along and stopped at a few lookout spots, many of which were pretty crowded. At probably the second or third one, I was approached by a random guy. He was sort of a big man with dark hair. He said hello and told me his name was Joe. Then he asked if Amanda and I would be interested in going on a tour, claiming he led a guided tour around the area. I wasn't very interested, so I said, no thanks. He asked again if I was sure, and I repeated, yes. After that, he walked away. We continued taking pictures and moved along. About 15 minutes later, we reached another overlook area. It wasn't as crowded. I noticed Joe walking toward us again. This time, he said he had forgotten to mention that the tour was free because someone else had apparently canceled. He asked once more if we wanted to go. I thought about it but still didn't want to go with some random guy. I said no. He asked if we were sure again, and we both said yes. Just like before, he walked away. The whole thing felt strange, especially because he didn't bother to ask anyone else, just us. Amanda and I stayed at the lookout spot for a few more minutes, then kept walking along the canyon and visiting different viewpoints. I remember that at one of the later spots, we saw Joe again, a little ways off. I was afraid he was going to approach us again, but this time he didn't. He was with another man, and they were just standing around, acting shady. Amanda and I walked in the other direction. There were some paths through nearby areas that weren't as busy. We walked down a couple of them. About halfway down one, I saw Joe again. He was walking a ways behind us. That's when I started to feel seriously weirded out. It didn't seem like a huge deal yet. There were still other people around, and the path wasn't totally isolated, but something felt off. Later on, we went back to the canyon and didn't see him again. We finished our visit at the gift shop, each of us picking up a few souvenirs. And out of nowhere, there was Joe again, with the same friend from before. He didn't approach us this time, but it felt too strange to be a coincidence. Whatever tours they claimed to be running, they clearly weren't doing it. By the time we finished up, the sun was setting, and we decided to drive back. Our hotel was over an hour away. We returned to the main parking lot. As we were getting in and preparing to leave, I saw the two guys again. They were far away but had just entered the lot. I kept my eye on them because I was very suspicious at this point. I saw them walk over to an old SUV parked on the other side of the lot. Was that what they were supposedly giving tours in? I wasn't buying it. I felt relieved we hadn't agreed to go with them. Amanda and I got in the car and started to leave. As we were driving out, the SUV pulled out and followed right behind us. From what I remember, there's really only one main highway leading to and from the Grand Canyon. For almost an hour, there isn't much around, just a few restaurants and gas stations right outside the park. We decided to stop for gas. My tank was getting low, and we didn't know where the next chance to fill up would be, or if the guys were still going to follow us. As we pulled into the gas station, the SUV followed right in. Now we were really concerned. I started fueling up while the SUV parked off to the side. Nobody got out or tried to pump gas. After I finished, Amanda and I decided to go inside the store. The station was pretty big, and we browsed a bit to pass some time. That's when we noticed the two men sneaking inside. We tried to avoid them. They didn't approach us, but I knew it wasn't a coincidence. We grabbed a few things and left. The guys left right behind us. We hurried to the car and jumped in. They went back to their SUV, and we drove off. Unfortunately, they followed again, right onto the main highway. There weren't really any exits, but I tried slowing down, speeding up, changing lanes, nothing worked. The SUV stayed behind us the whole time. We started thinking of what to do. After a while, we got the idea to drive to a police station. Unfortunately, there wasn't one nearby. For the next several minutes, things didn't change. The SUV stayed behind us until we finally exited the highway. We drove straight to the nearest police station. Thankfully, the SUV didn't follow us in. We reported everything and gave descriptions of the two guys, though we hadn't gotten their license plate number. After that, we made it back to the hotel safely. I'm really glad we never agreed to that tour. Who knows what they were planning? Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.